Not even a year has passed since the release of the first Modern Warfare. Oh yeah, I didn't turn the calendar over. More than a year has passed since the release of the first Modern Warfare, which was pretty cool, but sometimes boring due to its emphasis on realism, and now, less or more than a year later, to it came out a direct sequel, telling everything about the same approximation to reality. Whether they succeeded this time not to make me yawn or I told my mouse while playing Modern Warfare 2, we will find out now. And in the very first frame we met a ghost with a cool mask on his face, which he will remove only once in the whole game, and it will be stacked as if he lost his masked virginity. But until the end of the game I couldn't understand what was so hidden in his face and why he hides it from the people all the time. And how convenient it is to constantly be with this mask on your face, which not weakly limits the angle of view so much that during the battle it pretty much reduces your chances of winning. This ghost is now on assassination missions, a certain General Garbrani, who was not in the first part but who is stunningly so important to Alcatala that his deputy, after we kill that man, will make every effort to avenge us for this. And the soldiers decided not to kill this Garbrani classically from a sniper rifle, the experience with Zakhaev apparently taught them, but immediately from a rocket, so that he would surely finish him off. Why don't you always kill your targets like that? So much time would have been cut. But on the other hand, we were given a little control over this rocket. And now we were sent further to Al-Mazrah, where the deputy of the murdered general was found, who this time they decided not to fuck with the rocket, but to send Ghost, Soap and other extras to capture him, because he was not in the herd to catch him alive in order to have a small conversation with some questions of his stat. Unlike General Garbrani, apparently no information could be extracted from him. And now, having already searched all the houses, it turns out that Ghassan was really not here, and they in fact try in vain. But on the other hand, laptops were found everywhere with Hassan's speech repeated an infinite number of times, because, well, what else should terrorists watch? Propaganda is propaganda, but this is some kind of too lazy propaganda. But not only the main characters turned out to be stupid, because Alcatala's employees decided that this would be a great idea to openly start running directly in the forehead, so that it was as comfortable as possible to shoot them all. Run stupidly at the enemy with cannon fodder, now they call it literacy. We successfully completed this shooting range, which looked like a standard turret section only without a turret. In the end, in order to not suffer like this anymore, we decided to call for help from aviation in order to finish this target section a little faster. It is not clear what prevented us from doing this immediately after we killed this dude with the rocket launcher, I don't know. Well, for example, while you are distracting the enemy from this side, or even before you approach this building, it would be possible to launch the drone so that it quickly checks the windows, and then maybe there would be no need to handle this building carefully without smashing it with rockets. I, as usual, threw a crook hand a grenade that missed the hole and ended up next to me. I hid from the explosion at the table, and like that luck, this table turned out to be with special coating of adamantium, which allowed to not even budge from the explosion, thereby protecting me from a grenade explosion. As a result, nevertheless, we found the uniform of Ghassan, who gave so quickly of ships that he forgot it here, but also we didn't find him in this place, we stumbled upon something else, which would be the ideal moment for in order to blow up this rocket at the same time destroying 500 opponents. But be that as it may, there is still many missiles, and we need to quickly find them, and therefore we switch to Captain Price and Gus, who are already in Amsterdam. They are doing just that. Why Amsterdam? This almost random finger pointing really led them to some kind of trail, namely to a cartel that cooperates with terrorists, and it's going to meet in an hour to make some kind of deal. Immediately while I was still in the water, it turns out that being in the water, not only can I just aim shoot like on land, but also reload weapons even while moving. And okay, even with pistol, but with a two-handed machine gun, how the hell can you shoot so accurately in water? And the patrol on the boat is so attentive that it does not notice a single corpse on the pier, which is not even in the shade, and does not pay attention to the fact that the number of these same guards is increasing every second less and less. This time Captain Price showed his true self just in 40th minute of the game. develops. And now we have moved to the morning Amsterdam, which is already annoyed could compare with real Amsterdam, finding the real one much less graphically impressive than the game one. And here it is impossible to argue, the location of Amsterdam, although very small, looks unrealistically beautiful. And the members of the cartel are also apparently impressed by this city, considering how quickly they react to my attacks. Immediately we stole one of the cartelists in order to extort some information from him about Hassan, whom they would have to accompany from Mexico. She was able to conceive him, and they were able to find out the place and the time when Hassan would be transferred across border, and therefore we are going to Mexico. What the point of putting up the wall that it's little harder to overcome than an empty place? Hang at least barbed wire upstairs for decency. Americans living near to the Mexican border are so weak that they die even from a shot past them. Who would have thought, but absolutely everyone who stood next to these exploding machines not only survived but did not even die. And the terrorists themselves start attacking us instead of running away and let us know exactly where they are now. Every door has the ability to be opened or knocked down, and what's more, if the door is closed and you won't be able to open it, then it won't be possible to knock it out either. At least I only came across such doors. And therefore both these opening options are essentially the same action. Garbrani did not burn, but was shattered into small pieces with the help of our rockets. His scattered pieces most likely burn, of course, but this happened after he died, so you are doing everything wrong, fucking sweetles. Because jumping out of the window, being on the second floor, having received minimal injuries, but without being burned alive, of course it was impossible. Yes, and he could not get out of this trap so much that his partner named Alejandro could go into this trap and just as easily pull his partner out of it. So we found out where the missiles were, Hassan returned to the Mexico, and therefore, in order to find out more about these missiles and in order to not accidentally start in war in Mexico, use a company that tell us by its name that they will be traitors. And we went to Mexico. Because for a Mexican in a row of things to walk in a mask in the form of skull. Every second passerby walks like this. Well, Modern Warfare 2 wouldn't be Modern Warfare 2 without a shootout in Mexican slums. Whoever hired them, they are still the Mexican army, with which without much difficulty, okay, a little hard, okay, they pretty pissed me off, but still managed to cope as many as 4 professional soldiers, but still 4 people, the percentage of the entire army of the territory of this very army. And by the way, this is the murder of the Mexican military, albeit hard by a cartel, but still the murder of the Mexican military by the US military in Mexico is not a reason to declare war that the Americans did not want to start. The sniper is so professional that somehow, most likely by accident, he was able to hit just one of the 4 people who were barely moving and located in open space. No matter how much I shoot at this or any other person on the bridge, the script wants him to stay alive until the very moment this bridge is blown up. No, well, that's not funny anymore. And I don't even give a shit that this is another copy of the same mission from the first Modern Warfare. I would eaten that too, but bitch, how long and boring it is, it's just awful. In the original game it was not that much of a fun segment, but here they surpassed the yawn mouse of the classmate and made such boring thing this time that it is quite likely that my walkthrough would have ended here if I hadn't done this video. But in fairness, it worth saying that having gone headlong into realism, the game from beginning to the end became saturated with this yawn vibe, the quintessence of which is precisely this mission, but most of the other missions are also, cannot be said, very spectacular and funny. A lot of slow walking, a lot of crawling, a lot of stealth, also in some places I really like it, but still, and not so many beautiful explosions, distractions, dynamics and spectacular action scenes and all of that, which made the old games feel a lot more fun what we got now. How can you recognize a smart civilian? Very simple. When during the shelling it revolves around the military under fire, it is safe to say that this is the smartest civilian of all the smart civilians in existence of the planet. What kind of gate they have so powerful, which after a salvo of 25mm shells remain standing in their previous position. But still, after all of this 15-minute boredom, we still managed to get Hassan, and then we have to... Are you fucking kidding me? You were going to finally lull me to sleep that the previous 15 minutes mission was not enough for you fucking another exactly the same, if not more boring 15-minute lulling missions. That's it. Finally we finished this event, which is in the books of history will have a name half an hour of despondency, and the time has come to interrogate Gassam. Why do they need to know at least some language other than their own if their language almost the whole planet is talking? And how will you unleash a war by killing him in the middle of the desert, in which he could have been buried so no one would understand who killed him? They themselves said thanks to the cooperation with the cartel, no one would be surprised at his sudden disappearance. What follows next? A mission in Chernobyl, that is, cheap copy of the mission in Chernobyl, in which he again participates like last time Captain Price, and this is another very slow mission that at least at the end gains some momentum. And I understand that Modern Warfare is really being waged this way in reality, at least from the side that knows how to fight and not the one that recruits of sort of scum into the units along with TikTok troops of Kadyrovs who are only good at dying and fucking ships. But still, this is not real life, this is fucking game, and I was already tired while playing this unrealistically beautiful game, constantly yawning. And in order to dilute this sheer boredom a little, they decided to introduce dialogues into the game with the choice of a replica during slow walking, well, so that at least a little what is happening does not tire. And in principle, why not? At least some variety. Increasing the zoom of the sniper rifle also increases the area that is outside the range of the scope, because that's how sniper rifles work. In the original Modern Warfare and in its 2018 reboot, we calculated the correction using flags scattered everywhere. Right there, nothing moves anywhere, but prices still perfectly tell us the exact trajectory of the shooting. Also, for the entire time of shooting, I never noticed that the wind had any effect of the trajectory of a bullet. It can reduce its height at such a distance, so the sight must be aligned in height, but it will never move to the side. And by the way, what the point is all this long shooting of opponents with a sniper rifle if their numbers is not very large and I still end up going there and making a fuss? In order for two of them to hit me in the scope, I need to crawl half the map. Thank you, I don't want to, I already have enough albeit fun. I will be spotted even after I change position without leaving cover and without firing a single shot. Lie down and wait a long time until the enemy passes? Go fuck yourself! Oh, and these soldiers are so cool that in order to notice where the fire is coming from and start firing back, they need to come close, take closer look and only then start shooting. And if the missiles are outside, we must lose them. And also it seems you are lying there on top of the sniper rifle, you can see them perfectly and could at least help a little with their distraction. But it's not door opening, of course. The heartbeat sensor appeared here solely because in the original Modern Warfare 2 there was a heartbeat sensor. Because only those who run slowly are called mems. Non-linearity, wow, Activision, yes! I don't know what an overdose of catchphrases looks like, but it seems that it is. Leonardo da Vinci loves the Joker. You haven't even gone inside yet, how do you know that? And if the missiles are outside, stop! Why are you repeating yourself? You go to the next building, you shameless fuck. As a result of this mission, we again did not find anything, but on the other hand, the Alcatalians kidnapped Laswell, and therefore it became possible to pause the main plot and switch to saving her, so that the game had a little more duration. Joseph, go back to your fucking Far Cry! Cutie Farah is back in the second game. Joseph, go away from here! It is very uncomfortable, but despite of this scene is pretty cool. The Alcatala convoy is hard to miss. Judging by its length, it occupies the entire city with itself. No, seriously, it took me 20 minutes to go around the car almost every 10 seconds to get to the first one. Or did they, like in a Game Snake, collect cars around the city and accidentally collect all the cars in the city in a column? And yes, even though I'm driving the same car as the participants in the column, even though I slow down at times to change cars, even though I slow down at times due to crashing into something, I still manage to constantly catch up with them and distill. And also apparently Alcatala's trucks are equipped with artificial intelligence, otherwise it is impossible to explain how they themselves before the hero gets into the cab and understood not only what need to be gassed but also turned into right sides. A few words about the physics of local machines. The wars are over. We successfully rescued this woman, she kicks ass of her warden, but we still do not know where the missiles with guidance systems are. This second person turned out to be Sin Nombre, to whom we will now go. So we came to the woman who is the same El Sin Nombre, which we do not yet know about, and tell her all our ins and outs in order to ingrediate ourselves. We wrapped ourselves into trust in her, but this Mexican general is not, and therefore... Holy shit, what a powerful gun he has! Oh, it's just my imagination. We were allowed to walk and now we need to get a pass to get to El Sin Nombre's office. Quite quickly I found a pass and we went upstairs to the boss, where we found out that this boss is exactly the same woman which has the best name on the planet. What a surprise! As a result we caught Valeria and now we can leave. As a result we found out from her where the missiles are and therefore we went to the drilling platform because the original Modern Warfare 2 had a drilling platform, which means that it should be also here. But something not entirely clear here. If, as they said, this platform is no longer functional and there are only bandits from the cartel on it, or dudes from Alcatala, no matter who, and you only need to defuse the missiles in any way on it, what you will eventually do with the help of Fludin, why not immediately fly up to it in some kind of helicopter, launch several missiles into it, so that it immediately goes to the bottom and you don't have to do all these actions on the platform and risk the lives of your colleagues. This might not have happened if he had checked the corners. For whom did Captain Price interpret this from time to time? There was no trigger mechanism on the drilling platform and therefore we had to stomp on the ship, where we were met by a rather cool fight scene, with containers moving from side to side, making this battle a little more dynamic and memorable. Nearly killed one of the final bosses ahead of time along the way, and in the end we got to the captain cabin, where it turns out that there was no way to mark the launch of the rocket and therefore it was necessary to undermine it. Why couldn't you do it by yourself? The rocket successfully exploded beautifully and it was time to go home and dry. But we couldn't dry thanks to the fucking rain, under which Graves betray us. Soap, due to the fact that it becomes so much from moisture, rolled on the ledge, lost all weapons and a little of his blood, and then the game turned into a primitive survival simulator for a while, where we have to craft items and hide from enemy until we find a weapon, and even when we find a weapon, cartridges for it, there will be few, and there will be many opponents. And in principle, this mission is quite unusual for Call of Duty, and I even liked it. The icon on which looks more like tape, and sometimes the model looks like tape, but during crafting it will still turn into a rope. And what will be interesting if you combine the rope and the fan blade, it turns out to be a master key, because if you put some kind of a flat crap in crotch between the door and pull it a little, then any door, any chest and everything will open. I won't be surprised that it's also possible to start a car this way and bring a woman to orgasm. And at what, no matter what scrap metal we find, all of it will look like a fan blade after being combined with a rope. And also this broken blade is quite sharp, it will not work as a melee weapon. Along the way I found a simple puzzle which I could solve on my own, feeling smart for a second, and found inside the safe, which for some reason looked like Desert Eagle. Well, let it be a machine gun, now I won't argue. And also get Coca-Cola caps accumulated over the year from Attic. I was just killed by an enemy who most likely materialized from behind from the void, because there is only one passage that leads to a completely different location where I kill everyone who there could be. And what if you stand here in the place there, no one will appear at think only after I get out of there. Having got out of the trap, we go to the shelter of Alejandro, where we learned from his lover that he was put in prison, and therefore now we have to break into prison and save Captain Price from... this is different breaking into prison from Modern Warfare 3, how could I mess it up? Don't shoot until Ghost gives the command, because freedom of actions is for pussies. Hey Shadow partner, did you hear the door just creak open? Can we turn our heads and see why it creaked? No, it's just a wind, forget it. After another cosplay of Watch Dogs, in which the camera starts to bleed due to Ghost death, and after a little classic prison shootout, we still get to the Alejandro. The grenade indicators doesn't look like this. As a result, Captain Price opened the door to freedom from the prison for us, and we drove. And we drove into a flashback in which we were shown that it was actually the Russians who stole rockets from the shadows and handed them over to the terrorists. And Shepard did not want anyone to know that he was with his PMCs fucked up the missiles, decided to betray us all because we have almost got to the bottom of the truth. And also in this flashback we learned that there are only 3 of these missiles, but therefore that we still need to deal with the traitors, and therefore, while making our way through the base captured by Grace, we came across a cognitive fact of the origin of the word gringo. We get to a sexy drug dealer and switch to the second group, which is already halfway from the boss fight. And this boss fight is a pretty interesting battle with the tank, and the training ground with a bunch of targets that I shoot on the habit, but the assholes didn't even give me an achievement for this. We successfully destroyed Graves, and judging by the smile on your mask, you are uncontrollably happy about it. And it's time to go to the final mission, where we will kill the second boss, the leader of Alcatala, whose name I've already forgotten, and we will defuse the last missile. As physics tells me, from such a jump he had to fly an opposite direction from this hole, but in physics I had a bribe, so I could get a little fucked up. This is only the second time I've seen Captain Price open the doors. I'm disappointed. We failed to cancel the launch of the rocket, and therefore we'll have to hurry a little so that it does not have time to reach the Pentagon. We got to Gassan, but we lost all weapons, and his people are looking for us on the floor, and therefore we have to play the survival simulator one more time. In my case it was today. The first time was okay, but the second time is too much. We find a secluded place, we neutralize the rocket in the same way as the last time, we killed the bald man from Brothers Katala immediately after he said the following remark: "What's the difference and how is invasion better than attack?" And in order to celebrate the completion of this mission, we went to drink. He even fucking drinks in a mask. Shepard disappeared somewhere, and therefore we will look for him in the next game, together with a new antagonist that has appeared. So in the third game we'll again be bad Russians, which I am immensely happy about. In the meantime, until this happens, subscribe so as not to miss the scenes of the third game and the whole bunch of everything else.